part of surviving as a music power couple in this business is to have full faith in each other and be confident that nothing's going to break that trust.
I grew up in the music industry at a very, very young age. My first recollection of being in the recording studio was in Sausalito at the famous record plant. That's how I started off being around the music industry because of my sister Tina dating Larry Graham at the time. I went to concerts and clubs at like 12.
I started working with Preston. It was an album that was recorded up in the Bay Area in Berkeley, Fantasy Records, but it actually came out on Volt. Mm-hmm. And it was Preston. I was working with Preston. He was the actual producer, along with Fred Pittman. And it was called Come See About Me. And it was a really good album.
How have you been able to survive in this industry so long?
Well, I would say by the grace of the good old Lord, our God that watches over all of us. And I'm still recording as well, and I do shows and plays and things of that sort. So I'm still doing it, even though I'm a senior citizen, so to speak.
You could have fooled me. I thought you was about, your early 20s or 30s.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Well, 60 is the new 30.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Okay, I accept that. And then I worked with him a second time in 2002, and that was an album, a CD entitled On the Inside. Mm-hmm. And I did a duet with the great Ollie Woodson, who's no longer with us, but he was one of the lead singers of the Temptations, and I would say one of the better lead singers of the Temptations. They were all good, but he was one of the really, really good ones. And that was a really, really nice album, and I enjoy so much working with Preston.
So can you tell me some of the things that you have noticed about Preston and Gina's relationship over the years, because you've known them?
Yes.
So how have they been able to survive together? What have you noticed?
I think it's their religion, and I think that they're one of the I'd say unusual couples that have really stayed together for all these years. Every time I'm with them, all I see is love. I see Gina cares so much for Preston, and Preston is so respectful of Gina, and they're just a perfect couple. And that's what I see when I see the two of them together. And I say every time I see Preston, I see Gina.
Mm-hmm. Even when you see them apart.
You're right, or apart, but it's like she lives for Preston, and he lives for her as well. And they have a full family. They have their own kids, grandkids, And I think the secret is having a good religious foundation. I believe they're Jehovah's Witnesses, and I think that has a lot to do having a good spiritual foundation as well. That keeps them together and as a whole and as a family.
So Preston just recently suffered a couple of strokes.
I heard about that, yes.
Okay, so how is he progressing in his recovery? What have you noticed about his recovery?
I think he's coming along quite well. I would never know it. If I didn't know it, I wouldn't know it. I would just say, oh, he's walking just a little slower, but it's okay. I walk slower myself, because I have my knees aren't exactly like they were when I was 25. I think he's doing well, and also he does his therapy. He does what he's supposed to do. He pays attention to what the doctor tells him to do, and he does it. And this man, Preston Glass, is going to be around a long time. He ain't going nowhere.
So I started sending some demos out while I was working with Bellboy Music, tunes that Tom Bell didn't use, to some of my other favorite producers, just trying to get more of my songs out there. And a producer named Narda Micah Walden, who was known as an artist and a world-class drummer, was starting to really make a name for himself as a producer, producing people at that time like Stacey Lattisaw, himself, Angela Bofill. So he heard my demo and asked if he could produce one of the songs on there that was written by Alan Glass and myself, called Spotlight. And he did that on Stacy Lattisaw's second album. And from that relationship with Narda doing my tune, I started sending him more things. And he said, why don't you come on up and we can maybe collaborate up in the San Francisco area. Then some of the big name artists started noticing those productions that Narda was doing. People like Aretha Franklin, and under Clive Davis, who of course is legendary now as an executive, and Arista Records, they asked Narda to produce Aretha's follow-up album to the stuff that Luther Vandross was doing. And Narda, of course, had his staff working on all the material that he was producing. And I was able to co-write Who's Zoomin' Who with Narda and Aretha, which was the title cut to her album that, of course, included Freeway of Love. And Narda also kind of looked at me as an A&R person, finding material outside, finding even material within the camp. And in fact, there was an old song that he had written that he forgot about. When he was asked to do Aretha Franklin, I reminded him about Freeway of Love. I said, what about that song that you had written for yourself? And the rhythm section rehearsed it, and we laid it down, and Clive Davis said, this is a smash, and of course it was a #1 hit.
Hello, my name is Narda, Michael Walden, and I'm very happy to speak about my brother Preston Glass today. I first received a tape way back when I was doing Stacy Lattisaw's first solo album, and I received a tape from Preston, a song called Spotlight. Shine your love on me, put me in the spotlight, boom, 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 boom. Let me be the only one you see, keep me in the spotlight, boom, dun, 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 dun. I like the song. We cut on the first or second, maybe the second Stacy Lattisaw album, which had to come out and be working on maybe 80, 79, 80, somewhere back there. So I was really brought to his consciousness. And then I found out that he worked with Tom Bell. Now, Tom Bell is a monster producer and did Delphonics and Stylistics and many great people. So Preston came out of Seattle, out of that camp. And he came down to San Francisco to come meet with me. And I hit it off with him because he's a true music lover, writes constantly, has a lot of, passion about music. And I then made him part of my camp. Dave Rubinson was there, Greg DeJoven, our management. We all embraced Preston. And actually had him move down here to work with me right away because he just had a gift that we loved. And I'm very happy about that because, for example, once Preston was around, that he could say things like to me, he could say, remember that song you composed called Freeway of Love for your own album? I said, yeah. He said, well, why don't we take that song and flip it for Aretha Franklin? I go, wow, great idea. I would have never thought of that. So we did. We took Freeway of Love, something for myself, flipped it, recut it for Aretha Franklin, put Aretha on it, smash. Who's Zoomin' Who? When I got the idea to make a song like What's Love Got to Do With It by Tina Turner, brought Preston and helped me write a lyric to a track idea called Who's Zoomin' Who, based on the idea of Aretha. I said, Aretha, what do you do at night? On a telephone call. What do you do at night? She goes, well, maybe I go out at night and I see a guy in the corner of a nightclub. Maybe he's looking at me. Maybe I'm looking at him. Maybe it's like, who's Zoomin' Who? Now, he thinks he's got me, but the fish jumps off the hook. I was like, whoa, I'm kind of writing all this stuff down. So I go to Preston. I said, Preston, Aretha says she gets the feeling of who's Zoomin' Who in a nightclub. Like she looks at someone, they look at her, it's who's Zooming Who. But when the guy thinks he's got her, she jumps off the hook. The fish jumps off the hook. So we put all this together on the kind of vibe like Tina Turner would do, What's Love Got to Do With It? That's how our minds work. We take a little of this, a little of that, put it all together, bam. So he's really a gifted individual, human being. Then, for example, I say, Preston, just write me songs. So he'll give me like 5, 7, 8 songs. Pow, like that. So then I sit down on my Sunday, I listen to all the songs, and then there's another great song called We Don't Have to Take Our Clothes Off to Have a Good Time. Oh no, We can dance and party all night and drink some cherry wine. Oh, na 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 na. Happy music. He's really good at knowing how to tap those buttons that make us feel things. So he's got a gift for that. Then he said, well, I want to produce some stuff. So we got Kenny G in here. Kenny was on night shift with Preston Glass making Kenny G music, which has exploded all over the world, duotones. So you see, we've had a lot of success with Preston Glass. Then, okay, look at Whitney Houston. Preston helped me cut a lot of my stuff with Whitney Houston, the second album of Whitney Houston's. In particular, songs like Where Do Broken Hearts Go? You know, and I love bells. So Preston put the bells, love vibes, those type of things. Even at Freeway Love, bling, 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 the vibes, those little bell sounds. I love when he brings that to my life. So, angelic, sweet, a kindness, a humility. Preston exudes these qualities, and this is why we love him. He's part of our family, and we're still young and sexy. So we'll stay together for a long, long time to come, making many more hits. And I wish you nothing but love. And to Gina, your better half, she's the life of the party. She's the soul. She's the sweetness. She's caring. She's the mother energy, and we love her. So God bless you, Preston Glass, and your family, Alan, your parents who raised you right, your grandparents and their love of music and their, entertainment. They were great singers. They were great performers. You have all that inside of you. And to your grandchildren who you're raising up, I want to really give you a lot of love for the family love you give and the guidance you give to your family. And I consider myself part of your family, and you give me guidance. So God bless you. You're a Capricorn. You're strong. You're powerful. You're beautiful. You're beloved by all. Ruby Jackson, the Jackson people. Everyone loves you. Anyone who knows you loves you. Just know that. God bless you and love you.
Well, working with Preston Glass has been a journey for the last 34 years. I put out a lot of fires being his manager because we work so close together as husband and wife. I'm able to make things happen for him, and also people have a lot of respect for me because they don't want to get me upset or him upset because then the project just won't happen. But we've been through a lot together. I love negotiating all of his projects. It's easy for me to get what I want because they know that they want to have some good work done by my honey. And it's just been a journey, but it's been rewarding. We have ups and downs in the business. Sometimes I fire myself.
Sometimes you what?
I fire myself.
I bet you hire yourself again too.
Well, he has to do the rehiring.
That's the first time I heard that.
Well, it's happened a few times. I mean,
explain that. How do you do that?
Well,
why?
say for instance, we had a session in New York with Melba Moore and Freddie Jackson. We're in the studio, and the engineer keeps saying Freddie's voice isn't portraying himself right, and I'm like, excuse me, Freddie is a professional. Freddie knows what he's doing. So I'm sitting in the back with the owner of the record company, and he's telling me, Gina, you need to shut this guy up. I'm like, really? You really want me to say something? He says, yes. So I tell the engineer, I said, look, it's not the microphone, it's you. You need to get it together. My husband knows what he's doing, and you need to be nicer to everybody in the studio. And so Preston proceeded to tell me after I walked away, he goes, you know what? You're fired. So I said, okay. I got my handbag. Melba Moore was cracking up at me. I said, I'm going shopping in Manhattan. So you know what that meant. When I came back, I had boxes of shoes, baby clothes for my new grandbaby girl. So that's one of the things that happen in the studio. I've never really had too many problems, being his manager, because it's easier for people to get along with both of us, and then the project comes out beautiful. So in saying that, being a manager is not an easy job.
But it's one that you love.
Yes, and well, being the wife too and a manager sometimes can be a conflict if you don't really, communicate. And so communication is a very big, deal in our marriage, where we talk about everything, and we have to be on the right page with everything in order for it to work. So some people say that they couldn't do that, manage their mate, but ours is a different situation because we communicate. Communication is a big deal just in life, period. And so if you keep that going, your marriage and your business will stay strong.
Well, hey man, George, here we is.
We're so electric together, we're burning hot, a flame forever that can't be stopped. We're so electric together, as one supreme. We're even better as a team. We're so electric together.
One of the things that was pretty cool, man, is Mr. Preston Glass, is the producer, called me, said, you know, you put two people in a room, creative people, something good's gonna happen, man. So, like tonight, to me, was the highlight of my whole career.
Working with Lil Anthony is one of the highlights of my career. Today's a special day because we're going to be doing a vocal with Lil Anthony on one of the songs for his upcoming CD. It's just wonderful sitting there as he's just singing a little bit of the song that I'm playing for him, and I'm like, that's that voice I heard when I was growing up as a kid. One of the things that we're trying to do on this recording project for Lil Anthony is give him songs that relate to him and his life.
Very fortunate to have Mr. Preston Glass, who produced it.
We sat down and said, let's come up with things that he can really relate to.
The street light glow, me and Ernest and the boys would go out on the sidewalk, we would harmonize.
Well, I'm Preston Glass, and producing and writing music since I was a little boy. Professionally, since I was fresh out of high school, I'd say since I was 17. And I would call myself a songwriter first. Production or producing and arranging, being a musician, that all kind of falls into production. And so I've been doing this, surviving and thriving, since I was 6 years old, really.
Well, you know, it's a funny thing. When I first met Preston, you know, when you meet somebody for the first time, you kind of stand off a little bit, you know, till you get to know the person. And when I met Preston, it was like an instant thing that I've known him from someplace else, and like it was like became like a brother to me, you know, now, you know.
Oh, for sure.
And I, you know, got a lot of respect for him. You know, he's very talented, you know, a writer, producer, and you know, he's a great person.
What is the key to survival in this industry?
Well, the key, as I was told years ago, just try to know more than what your craft is. You know the business side of what your craft is, and just, you know, if you believe it, achieve it. You know, so.
Nice. You have a picture to your right there of you and Preston.
Okay.
So to your right there. You remember that night?
Man, two handsome guys.
Two handsome guys, definitely. You know, seems like you guys were having a great time.
Yeah. We were trying to put our little company together, you know, and that was one part of the promotion, you know. But we still have a company. Our company's in our hearts right now.
Definitely,
you know.
Definitely. How would you describe the relationship between Preston and Gina as a couple?
Preston and Gina as a couple. What was the lady who used to come on with the TV show? Ricky.
Oh, Ricky and Lucy.
Ricky and Lucy. Ricky and Lucy. You know,
That's interesting.
They have, you know, wonderful times together. They both are always smiling, and when you can see two people smiling all the time and they're living together, you know, and
even though Lucy was always getting in trouble.
Even though Lucy, you know, Lucy, the woman always run the show, man. So, you know,
definitely,
we're just supporting actors or cast, you know.
Your observation of spirituality. How important is spirituality to Preston? How close is he to being a spiritual being, as you know?
Well, man, you know, he just about his persona to me, you know, and I can feel, you know, certain things from certain people. With me, I kind of vibe more when I meet you, how instantaneously it can happen is we come together and know each other, starting as friends and becoming almost like family. But Preston You know, he's worked with a lot of people. He did some things when he was younger that he told me about. Around 18, going to Philly on his own, you know, and so he was adventurous, you know, and he had his talent going for him. So that alone shows you that his spirituality can go worldwide, because his mind is open enough to meet people. And you know, when you're a person that's in a shell, sometimes things don't work for you. But when you're a person that's outgoing and, you know, free spirit, you know, you meet people and people take you in and become friends for life. And he's that kind of a person. His spirituality is strong within and without. You know, he's outside of him. He has that glow. So he's a very spiritual person.
Well, having Jehovah God in our relationship makes all the difference in the world, because if you don't have God in your life and something spiritual to base it on, then nothing's going to work. So having God in our life, we pray together, we read the Bible together, we go to serve our God together, and that really does make us very strong, and without him we'd be nothing.
Man will leave his father and his mother, and he will stick to his wife, and the two will be one flesh.
What impresses you the most about Preston Glass's musical talent?
I think the thing that I love most about Preston Glass and his music and his artistry is that it's always coming from a place of love. It's coming from a place of studied talent, but also a gift that he was born with. And it's a gift that he has always used to express things that are good for people, good for the planet. You know, just good, loving sentiments that we need in the music.
As a producer, what made you want to do all these solo projects?
I started doing releasing solo albums in 2006, and solo albums, I'm not necessarily a great singer. You know, I can hold a tune, but it afforded me the opportunity to do material that some of these other artists I was producing never could do. So it gave me an opportunity to do that. Also helped me to do music or albums that had subjects that maybe were more personal. Fortunately, my high school, what they call glee club or choir, they did a benefit for their choir, but also half of the proceeds would go to my trip to Philadelphia, and they helped support that. So I was able to go at age 16, 3,000 miles cross country to meet my idol, my musical idol, and little did I know that I'd be signing with him a couple of years later as a songwriter, staff writer, but on the West Coast when he moved my way. So it was a very interesting meeting with him, because I was such a big fan of his, I said, I want to maybe move to Philadelphia from California. Of course, the Philly sound, we were talking about Gamble Huff and you know, all those great artists that they had, the OJs, Harold Melvin, Blue Notes, and 3 Degrees, and Teddy Pendergrass. So how I found out that Tom Bell was leaving Philadelphia was I started telling him, man, I want to come out here and work with you. And he told me, well, you got to finish high school, you know, get your education. I said, oh, I'm going to finish high school. I'll just finish it out here. He said, he whispered in my ear, he said, I'm going to tell you something these guys don't even know. He said, I'm moving out your way. Don't tell nobody. That's a very good question you ask on many levels. How has the stroke impacted me as a songwriter and musician? Well, physically it has, but musically it hasn't. And I'm growing every day physically, so I wasn't able to do this a few months ago. It's opened up a whole new world because I wasn't able to talk about things from that nature, you know, being that close to death and appreciating certain things. I can now talk from a different perspective, not just one who thinks how it would be, but one who knows how it is. So that's helped me. And then you know, even musically and lyrically, the what occurred to my arteries was I had blockage. I had 95% blockage in my left carotid artery, and the surgeon was able to remove the blockage, and now I have a clear path of air and blood flow. And as he told me, he said, now you should be writing songs better than you have in years, because who knows how long the blockage has been there.
Browning this chicken with some onions and garlic and olive oil. This is called chicken piccata, which is one of my favorite dishes. It has capers, mushrooms, and lemon juice, wine, and artichoke hearts. And it's really, really yummy and healthy, and I'll make some pasta for it. Learning how to take care of him with his new, new situation. I learned how to cook a lot. Well, I cook pretty healthy, but I learned how to cook healthier for him. And through that, he's lost 50 pounds. Learning how to just put, more vegetables and use olive oil. Just learning how to eat differently has really helped him to lose weight. and help him to feel better. Putting in frozen and artichokes. I'm going to grab some lemon juice and some wine. Bottle of wine. It's organic bouillon, so you're not getting all that other synthetic junk in your food. It's all natural. They're like a little vegetable, and this is like the top of the vegetable because it actually has a long stem to them. And you could actually use the stem, but when you're buying them from the grocery store, you're basically going to get the capers that are already cut off. But they're very healthy for you. They have a little tart taste in them, but it's really, really yummy and healthy for you. And then after the meat gets cooked down, what you do is it's got to have a couple of lemon slices on it. Right. And once it cooks down, add a little bit more water in it or whatever to make the sauce come out, nice and thick. Or you can put a little bit of cornstarch in it. Yeah, that's Boogie. He's smelling this food.
He wants some food.
Yeah, he's like, Mama, feed me. And so that's pretty much it.
All right.
Well, some of the biggest artists I've worked with and favorite artists I've worked with are people like Johnny Mathis, people like George Benson, people like Aretha Franklin, people like Whitney Houston. Working with Aretha Franklin was a true blessing, and she definitely is one of the survivors and thrivers. She passed away, but her music will live on forever. And I'm happy to say that a few songs of mine, 6 in particular, are songs that I wrote either for her or with her. One of those songs that I wrote with her is Who's Zoomin' Who, which was the name of the album that was her comeback album, even though she never really left. But Freeway of Love, which was also on that album that I played on and sang background on, was a #1 hit, and the song given credit to be the song that gave her big comeback. Back in the day, you had to survive because you were a good musician, you were a good singer, you were a good arranger, you were a good producer, you were a good writer. These days, you can almost survive because you're good at social media. You're good at blending the brands, good at blending the types of industries together to make your industry stand out. So the fact that I'm even talking about this shows that we have survived and we understand that, because we're not in yesterday's industry, we're in today's industry. So to understand that it has changed, it's not the same, shows that we are intent on surviving and thriving. There are a lot of my colleagues, so to speak, of maybe the same era that we came up with, that are not doing music anymore, or they really even like to do music, but they don't really have the first idea about how to survive. And that's because they haven't kept track of how things changed or how they have changed. Or they have kept track, but they don't want to deal with it. They don't want to, they'll hear a song on the radio and say, how did that guy get on it? Well, if they remember back when they were surviving and thriving, back in the early days, there were songs on the radio they didn't like. They didn't like everything. So don't just get mad at somebody because they're surviving and thriving. because they may look good, not sound that good, or they may be known for television and not so much for singing. Well, they figured out how to blend their brand and make it happen. So, you know, I teach a class occasionally at some of the bigger universities. I've taught at the University of San Francisco. I've also taught at UCLA.
Preston, you know, I've always been a great fan of yours. Year after year, as I stated before, you continue to exhibit the unique and unique musical talents that God has blessed you with, and I think that you're very fortunate. Also, you have the full respect, I mean the full respect of all your peers, and naturally that includes me, of course. Also, you understand that music education is so important in grades K through 12. And frankly speaking, we in many of our institutions we are missing that education component. So you keep doing what you do in that area because it's very important. Also, I would like to say that you keep bringing this good music of yours, your musical works to the world for the enjoyment of many generations to come. My good friend, take care.
I'm going to call up some names.
Okay.
And you tell me, first thing come to mind.
All right.
Okay. Whitney Houston.
Around the Way Girl.
Around the Way. Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Greatest band of all time.
Mace.
Mace was a singer I didn't really get to work with, but he sampled my song, We Don't Have to Take Our Clothes Off, and of course P. Diddy discovered it.
Stanley Jordan.
Genius.
Lionel Richie.
Fun guy. Mad respect. It was great to know that a legendary guy like that appreciated my music, so that was good to know.
Jennifer Holliday.
Jennifer Holliday, powerful voice. The only vocalist I ever worked with that broke a microphone with her voice.
The great Johnny Mathis.
Johnny Mathis, humble, very professional, very humble. That word comes to mind because here's a legend that was asking my sincere opinion on how his vocal performances were in the studio.
That is respect.
Yeah.
The Queen of Soul.
Reed.
Reed.
Probably the greatest female vocalist of all time. Maybe the best vocalist of all time.
Wow, that's saying something. Dionne Warwick.
Classy, very musical voice, and I was fortunate to have her do a song of mine called No One There to Sing Me a Love Song.
How about Jermaine Stewart?
Jermaine Stewart was a very nice guy, very talented dancer and singer, and We Don't Have to Take Our Clothes Off was a top 5 hit. We cut that music for that song for Sheila Easton in her key. And then the project didn't happen, so we had a track of a song cut for a female. And then we played the song for Jermaine Stewart. He loved the song, but what was great is we didn't have to recut it in a in a male key because his voice was so high that it fit the key already. So we were able to put him on there, and we had a big hit out of that. And I'd have to say, out of all the songs I've ever written, that song has been covered by more artists. If you go to YouTube and put in We Don't Have to Take Our Clothes Off, that song, it will pop up over 1,000 times.
Ron Tyson of The Temptations.
I was privileged to produce Ron's solo album, and showed me that he's right up there with Eddie Kendricks, maybe even more expansive talent than Eddie, because Ron's a great songwriter, and he can do his voice more than what he does on the Temps. He can actually sing everybody's part. He could do David Ruffin, he could do, but he's more known as the high first tenor of the Temps.
He has a great voice.
Yeah.
Did we mention Kenny G?
Kenny G. Kenny Gorlick. He was a big start of smooth jazz. A lot of people won't admit that, but let's put it like this. The album I produced by Kenny G helped start the smooth jazz movement. A lot of people will say otherwise, but it became more crossover once that album came out. And that was the first album I ever produced by myself. Wow. Just the fact that you're asking what was that, contemporary jazz or smooth jazz, it shows that that album was a whole new movement. You know, we had the Grover Washington and Bob James and all that before that, but when Kenny's album came out and Songbird was the focus of that album, it was more crossover, so they had to come up with a new name, so that's where the name smooth jazz came from.
Johnny Gill.
Young prodigy Johnny Gill.
Young prodigy.
Yeah, Stacy Lassaw discovered him straight from the church. He was only, I think, 14 when he got his deal. I worked with him when he was 16. We did Perfect Combination. And that album was the first album I ever co-produced.
Let's keep going here. How about Denise Williams? Now everybody knows Silly of Me to Think That I...
Well, you mentioned that song, Silly of Me. That song was on the album that I had a song on. You're All That Matters was the song that I co-wrote with Denise, Tom Bell, and Alan Glass.
Wow.
Sitting here with my brother Alan Glass. How you doing?
Hey, good to see you, Preston. I missed you, man.
So, you have a unique perspective on my life because you were there from the beginning. You know where all the bones are buried, so to speak. So, can you tell everybody what it was like, what I was like maybe as a little kid?
Well, I remember our dad played down home kind of blues guitar, and I used to sneak in there when he was at work and mess around with the guitar and try and do what he did. And you were always interested as well, but the guitars were always bigger for you, and your hands wouldn't fit like a normal guitar player. So even though the things I showed you, you figured out a way to use your thumb across the top to play all the bass parts, and then use your other fingers to do all the other work, and you could play the bass with your thumb. And I thought, wow, you don't need me anymore. You have all these title sheets and all these lyrical ideas, and that's what helped us kind of get our publishing deal from you and I writing. And remember, we used to do the studio, and we only had a 2-track.
Oh yeah.
And we used to bounce.
Stack stuff on top.
Stack stuff on top. We used to use cardboard boxes for the bass drum and then hit it with a mallet and just record it on top, and then the snare, and then the hi-hat, and then the keys, and then the guitar.
That was multi-track recording before it was
even there, and we didn't even know how we did it, but you know, I still got some of those old tapes with Barbara singing.
Oh yeah, some of those became recordings as far as demos.
Yeah.
And then the point about the ruler, I remember Tom Bell when he first was considered signing us. He said, "Your writing is good. Your handwriting is real good. Your songwriting needs a little work, but your handwriting is."
But that's great, because when we worked with him in Seattle, I remember we had a round house kind of a thing where all the different writers, George and Shannon from Boy Meets Girl, they had Joe.
Joe Eriks, Big Joe.
Yeah, Big Joe, and they had
Frankie
Blue, and
Bell and James. Went on the right.
And then everybody would poke their heads in each other's rooms. And actually, George and Shannon are still great friends today.
They're probably the most successful out of that bunch.
Hey Preston, it's George Merrill here. I have Shannon Rubicam on the music stand.
Not where I usually am. I'm actually on Skype and I'm waving, and George is filming the Skype with his iPhone, so we're all in it by hook and by crook.
We just wanted to check in, man, and pass on a congratulations on the new CD and talk a little bit about some stuff we remember from the good old days back in Bellboy and onward.
So we're thinking about when we met you at Tom Bell's office in Pioneer Square in Seattle, when we were all fledgling songwriters and being coached by Tom and doing some co-writing with various members of the writing teams there.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes writing really great songs, sometimes not so great.
It sure was a lot of fun going from room to room and hearing what everybody was up to, though. That was a lot of fun.
It was fun, and oh, Suitcase Roses, remember those?
Oh, man. Why did we sell those?
I don't know. And then we fast forwarded, and one day George got a call from Preston, I think.
Yeah.
Preston and Alan were in the studio with Narda Michael Walden, and they were, I think, recording or mixing Whitney Houston's How Will I Know, which we had written with Narda, and so you got the call, George, you have to say.
Yeah, I can hardly keep quiet. That was a magical afternoon, because where we left off, we had heard that this young girl named Whitney Houston was going to sing our song, but we didn't know anything more than that, except that her mother was Sissy Houston, and so you know, we get the call, and both you guys said, I just really think you should sit down and hear this, and you just, you know, hit play, and right off the intro, I mean, it just you know, it was just kicking. I mean, it's what you hear. It's basically, you know, what we all know as the song now. So, except that we heard it over the phone, and the phone was just. I still remember hearing her voice come soaring out of the phone, and the phone just saying, "Please, dear God, this is." It was wonderful. It was a great moment.
That was a fun call to get, and it was such a nice way to reconnect with you, because I think some years had gone by and you'd been doing your thing and following your career, and we'd been following ours, and so it was really wonderful to hear from you in particular, and to know that you guys were in the studio there.
And that you made such a difference on our song too. I mean, it was such a wonderful full circle.
There were some great people, and Tom would poke his head on it. I like that, man. Keep it going. And then
Occasionally you come and play a solo.
Play a solo. Or say,
Okay,
no, you shouldn't do that. You should do this. And then we started getting cuts. You know, our first cut I think was Dee Dee Bridgewater. And then from there we got Denise Williams, who we still work with to this day. And
Stylistics. We got to write with Linda Creed as well before she passed.
That's right.
That and those Temptations too.
Temptations. Wow, that was. And then Tom really helped us a lot. He kind of took us under his wing, got us a little house in Puyallup.
And he had a nickname, the Forehead Brothers.
The Forehead Brothers.
You know, we always were.
And then we'd always on the albums he'd call us Tiger Head, Dunder Head. And what did he call me? Something.
Some kind of head.
So we all, to this day, I still use that with all the people I work with. We're either potato heads or sausage heads. Maurice was a potato head, Maurice White, and Aretha decided she wanted to be a sausage head. So that was great. And working with Aretha, you know, was amazing getting those cuts. You know, you got quite a few cuts.
Yeah, that was a precious time. That had a lot to do with Narda Michael Walden, working with him. But
we always had to seem to get a house residency wherever we went. People seemed to like our application and our conviction and our organization, because we'd always show up and we'd have, like, for the one Aretha album, I think we wrote 40 songs or something.
Yeah. So some of those songs ended up with other people, but at least when you're what I call target writing, you have a premise to write the song, and then they end up in
a certain window. I just want to say one thing about my brother Preston. Being his brother, of course, I love my brother dearly, and there was nothing I wouldn't do for him if I could. I'd do anything I could possibly do if I could. But I just want to say, even if he wasn't my brother, he's still one of my favorite songwriters in the world that I've written with so many people. I mean, you know, between me and Preston, we know we've probably written 5,000 songs apiece. But of all of those writers, I mean, I still want to come back and write with Preston. And even to this day, he'll send me stuff I try and do over there, or I'll send him stuff that maybe he can do over here. And, you know, God bless him, and I just wish nothing but the best for him because, you know, all of us go through trials and tribulations with health and everything. And I just want to say, Preston, keep on going, brother. Keep them coming. I love you, man.
Gosh, I met Carlos as a young girl at a big concert with Marlon Brando was there and tons of other artists. Larry Graham, Doobie Brothers, and I've known Carlos since I was a little girl. And this was a picture of Carlos and me at his book signing in Marin County at the famous bookstore there in Mill Valley. And Carlos is just a wonderful, incredible man.
Let's talk about when you met Teddy Pendergrass.
Oh my gosh, meeting Teddy was like an amazing part of my life. This was when we went there to Philly to do a documentary on all these artists and also do an album on different artists, and Teddy was one of the artists that we worked with. And this was actually the last time Teddy ever performed again because he died shortly after that. So we were the last ones to work with Teddy, and it was just a really amazing opportunity.
And I remember being in the studio, he invited his mother, to the studio, which you were going to say that?
Put your hands down.
You said something about his mother, and was that the first time that she had a...
Yeah, I asked Teddy off the cuff, I said, it's great to meet your mother today. I said, when was the last time she was in the studio? He said, she's never been in the studio.
Wow, that's amazing.
And it was amazing. No wonder she was all dressed up in purple, nice purple new dress and hat. But an interesting fact about that day, in the adjacent studio to us in Philadelphia was the group called The Roots, who are now known as Jimmy Fallon's Tonight Show band. But they asked me permission, can we come in and meet Mr. Pendergrass? You know, and I was like, sure. So they asked my permission. That's how big Teddy was at the time.
Great. Let me slide this one on in here. Describe this picture right here. You guys, I saw Stevie Wonder in the picture, and you know.
Yes, this is a picture featuring the Tavares brothers, the group Tavares, who were featured at Saturday Night Fever, you know, the John Travolta movie.
Let me see Stevie Wonder.
And there's Stevie Wonder, who's a good friend of theirs. After one of their shows, Stevie happened to be there to witness them performing, and he came backstage to see them. And our good friend Chubby Tavares, who I produced 2 solo albums on, he's really a survivor in this music business.
And like a brother to us
and like
as well.
a brother to us. Chubby, here he is, solo-wise. When I had my stroke, he came to off tour, right, fresh off a tour, to see me for 10 days and help me to get rehabilitated along with my wife. And then he's a survivor, and I wanted to mention that after he came to see me, he had a major heart attack. Wow. But here he is now.
Bypass.
He had a quadruple bypass as a result of the heart attack to get rehabilitated, and now he's fine. He's going on tour again with his brother, so he is a true survivor. I've done 2 solo albums on Chubby, and might be a 3rd one on the way.
Thank you for calling We Love Rare Grooves. Who do we have on the line?
It's Chubby Tavares.
Hey! Our favorite Cape
My
Verdean.
brother from another mother.
What's going on, Teddy Tavares? What's happening, man? I'm so excited, not only for myself, but for Preston. I mean, my brother from another mother. I love him more than life.
That's right. Hey, oh.
I mean, this is the life I grew up around at a very young age of doing the drugs, and I used to sleep under the big mixing boards when my brother-in-law Larry Graham was doing his thing there. But that's how I started off being around the music industry, because of my sister Tina dating Larry Graham at the time. I went to concerts and clubs at like 12 and 10 years old, where you know, in Berkeley, where it was common for us to be in the back room, and then we would sneak out into the club and just filter in with, you know, all the other people that were there. So I started off at a very young age being in this music game, but I really didn't get in it as far as professionally until I met my husband Preston when I was 27.
I remember my dad, he always used to say, like a life lesson to always live by is an ounce of prevention is a pound of cure. And I guess that just basically means, you know, prevent yourself from all the dangers of life. If you know, because, you know, if you can prevent bad things from happening, you'll live a better life. The main words that come to mind about my parents are love, loving, they're so loving, loyalty, they're always there for me, and fun, because there's always a fun family vibe. They're surviving and thriving because first they have God in their life, and they never stop moving. They just, my dad is constantly working, even through his stroke and everything. He's playing on the piano, his music, I know, just, he's such an inspiration. And my mom's right there and handling everything right behind him. So they're definitely an inspiration. Still going strong. Working with my dad, I've been working with him since I was their age. These are my girls. It's been awesome. It's our one-on-one time. He's always been able to guide me and make me feel completely comfortable, because I'm not, you know, I'm no celebrity, but I can carry a tune, and I appreciate that he trusts me enough to work on some of his projects, and it's just a lot of fun. It really is.
I see we have some additions to the to the video. So introduce who just came in the video.
This is my youngest, Jaya. She's 5. This is Jasmine Michelle.
Jasmine Michelle.
She's 7, and Miss Maya Jade. She is 11.
One life lesson my grandparents instilled in me is like, well, for one, like they always did things, like they led by example for sure. So just being able to like learn how to work hard, like seeing him in the studio working hard, or seeing my grandma around the house or stuff like that. So being just working hard is one life lesson for sure. My grandparents survived and thrived in the music industry probably just by staying together and staying true to what they know. I know they haven't really switched up too much, so they always stay to their principles and what they believe in. So I think that's kept them honest, and when you stay honest, you know, everything just comes to you. So I think that's what helped them survive and thrive through all the years.
This will tell you what now?
This will tell you the type of music knowledge that some of these young artists don't have that we had to have.
Mm-hmm.
I told this one young artist today that's trying to aspire to be a songwriter, I said, you should use some different chords. And they said, well, I do use different chords. I use the best chords. I use the kind of chords from Guitar Center. They're shields.
Guitar chords?
They thought, they had never heard of chords that you play in a song. They thought it was chords you plug into a guitar.
Apparently not.
So they were writing songs, but they didn't know that what they were doing was chord structure. That goes to show you that the knowledge is not there, because people skip all that and go straight to the making of the music, which can be done by any number of pieces of equipment that you can get today. But some people have become adept at that. You know, the Ed Sheerans and Pharrell Williams, and I mean, these people are really talented, and some of the songs that they compose and produce are fantastic. Some of the stuff that doesn't have lyrical substance or musical melodies, then that doesn't attract me.
Definitely.